Welcome back to Money Matters. I'm DCrowell from Mortgage Network, and I'm here to be your host for the second half of the show. This is September 22nd, and we have just witnessed a very active and confusing and not calamitous, but very distressing week in the world. We have witnessed the devastation this past week of our second major hurricane of the season. Puerto Rico has been completely devastated. The Virgin Islands have been completely devastated. We're looking at damage there that will take a year to repair for core infrastructure. Electrical grid in Puerto Rico is completely out. Electrical grid in the Virgin Islands is completely out. These are extraordinarily difficult situations and far more expensive to repair and recover from than the similar devastation that occurred in Houston and in southern Florida. The issues are very wide-reaching here. Irma has really now created a test for the federal government as to how it will fund the aid that's necessary in order for this recovery to take place. Puerto Rico is as much a state of the United States and as much a part of the United States as Boston or New York or Houston or Miami. The same is true of the U.S. Virgin Islands. So you don't at this point get to draw lines. However, unlike New York and Boston and Houston, Puerto Rico has no senators to lobby for funding for the relief of its population. So there's a very big and complicated mess there that is only in its very earliest stage of recovery. The second major event occurring throughout the week is heightened rhetoric from North Korea and the Trump administration, which has reached really sort of juvenile, hysterical proportions, name-calling back and forth as of yesterday and today, 21st and 22nd of September. Not in my lifetime, certainly have I seen the level of name-calling that we're currently seeing, with very little evidence of diplomacy. It's very worrisome, and it's again an unresolved, watch this page kind of issue. In a completely contrarian mode to these desperately difficult problems, the stock market continues to be successful. There are bulls in the market who are predicting at this very moment that the stock market could rise another 10%, another 2,000 points by year end. It seems extraordinary and almost impossible to believe on my part. However, those predictors are out there. The general consensus of economists is that the stock market has risen about as far as it can without GDP and economic growth backing it up. So Is this a fair valuation of the market? It appears so. Can the valuations go higher across the board and consistently across the board? Yes, but only with greater growth in the economy. On another front, the Federal Reserve has met and has firmly forecast an increase in rates, economic conditions permitting, by year end. So we are looking at a December increase in the Fed funds rate, 0.25%, which in turn directly affects consumer rates and short-term lending rates. So a further 0.25% increase would push equity lines of credit to 4.5%, a prime rate of interest of 4.5%, and equity lines to 4.5%, 5.5%. Automobiles will increase. Automobile financing will increase slightly. Credit card financing will increase slightly. So all of the short-term and consumer financing goes up. Mortgage rates, still unclear. We've seen mortgage rates go up this past week about 0.125%, from 3.875 to 3.99. It's essentially 4%. But we are still impressed with the fact that mortgage rates have remained very stable and stubbornly low over the past 7 or 8 months. So mortgage rates have remained extremely attractive. What we've seen in mortgage networks business over the past week is not only very strong purchase activity, but we've also seen very strong refinance activity. It appears that many of our old customers are saying, well, you know, this is probably coming toward the end of this low rate cycle, and any restructuring that we need to do, any financial planning that we need to do that involves the debt on the house, we better get it done pretty darn soon, or we're going to miss out. And I think that's a smart thing to do. If you are 60 years old and carrying $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 of mortgage debt, it would be probably wise to extend that debt with a 30-year fixed rate mortgage out as far as you can. If you're 75 years old and you would like a 30-year mortgage, you absolutely can have one. There is no age factor or age determinant in issuing mortgages. Extending out a 30-year mortgage, if you are 60 or older, extending out a 30-year mortgage at this point is a smart play because it stabilizes your rate and gives you the lowest possible payment in your autumn years. If you're 50 years old at the moment and carrying $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 worth of debt, now's a good time to look at a 15-year fixed rate mortgage for the opposite reason. Your earning years are still strong, and you've got a good shot at getting a 3.5% 15-year fixed rate mortgage and paying off the mortgage entirely by the time you retire. So look at the contrasting strategies, look at the contrasting products. Talk to Mortgage Network, to DCrowell, to Brian Newman, to Susan Smith, to Sam Cavanaugh. We've got a host of extremely well-qualified loan officers, and the bulk of the conversation, quite honestly, is the bulk of most of the conversations that we have with clients all day long, every day, is really about life strategy, with the mortgage money being largely secondary. Once we know the appropriate life strategy, at whatever point you are in your life, whether you're getting married, getting divorced, having your first home, getting ready for retirement, once we know the components of your strategy, the mortgage money is easy, piece of cake. It's still inexpensive, and probably the time to move is now. This has been David Crowell for Money Matters. Look forward to talking to you next week.